Hi everybody, Mrs. Davis here. In my last video about area of triangles, I promised you a video on area of trapezoids, so that's what we're going to check out today. If you notice, we got a location upgrade. I'm no longer in my basement, so welcome to my living room. Alright, before we talk about the area of a trapezoid, let's talk about what a trapezoid is. So a trapezoid is a four-sided figure. So who remembers what we call a four-sided figure? Starts with a Q. There you go, quadrilateral. A quadrilateral. So a trapezoid is a quadrilateral. And the thing that makes a trapezoid is it has this pair of parallel sides. So it's got one pair of parallel sides. So that's what makes a trapezoid. So when we look at a trapezoid, the area of it, the first thing I want to point out is you already know how to find the area of a triangle, the area of a rectangle, the area of a square, the area of a parallelogram. So if you can break that trapezoid down, if you can decompose that trapezoid into those shapes, and you have the measurements for those shapes, then you can just find the area of each of those shapes, add them together, and get your area that way. For example, on this right trapezoid, if I look, I have a rectangle here. It's 4 by 5, so the area of that rectangle, 4 times 5, would be 20. And this says meters, so it's 20 meters, and area is always squared because we did meters times meters. All right, then if I look at the triangle next to it, the base of the triangle is 3, and the height, although it's not written there, I know this is congruent to this side. So if this was 4, I know the height here is 4. So 4 times 3 for my triangle is 12. And remember, for a triangle, you have to divide by 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. So this is 6 meters squared here. So the whole area of this trapezoid would be 20 plus 6. So the whole thing would be 26 meters squared. So if you can break it into shapes that you know, you're welcome to do that. So the problem is you're not always given all the measurements. Like sometimes you're just given this whole bottom part and it's not separated into the pieces that you need. So let's take a look what to do when that happens. Now there's different ways to explain how to find the area of a trapezoid, but since when we did triangles, I referred to it in relation to a parallelogram, we're going to do the same thing with a trapezoid. So when we talk trapezoids, the parts of a trapezoid that we need to identify are the bases. So we actually have two bases on a trapezoid because these two sides are different lengths. So we have base 1 and base 2. And it doesn't matter if you label one base 2, base 1, it doesn't matter. They're just your bases, but you need to identify that they are different. So that's why we have a base 1 and base 2. And then just like our triangle and our parallelogram, we're looking for the straight up and down part that is perpendicular to the bases that makes that right angle. That's our height. So on a trapezoid, if we have one of them, that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to show you how it relates to parallelogram because I also have a second trapezoid, again labeled base 1, base 2. And I'm going to take it, but this time I'm going to turn it upside down and put it right next to it. So when I do that, can you see what is created with those two trapezoids? Sometimes it's hard to see because it's two different colors. So let me go ahead and kind of trace it here for you. So when I do that, if I take these away, what shape is created there? Good, a parallelogram. So two trapezoids made a parallelogram. So you can kind of start thinking in your head how a parallelogram's formula is going to relate to a trapezoid's formula. So the first thing you're probably thinking of is kind of like what happened with the triangle. Well, since it took 2 to make it, we only want 1, we're going to end up cutting whatever we have in half. So whatever our formula is, we have to cut it in half. So cutting in half is the same as dividing by 2 or multiplying by 1/2. So let me put these back up here because something else you kind of got to notice though with this trapezoid is we just didn't have one base. We don't have just base times height like a parallelogram because remember it took 2 of them. So we have a base here, and then we have the other base here. So we have the longer one and the shorter one. That's why in the formula for a trapezoid, we have to add up our two bases. So our base 1 and base 2 need to be added up. So our formula is base 1 plus base 2. Now after we have that, we're going to multiply it by the height. So I'm going to put that in parentheses so we know we add those up, and then multiply it by height. And sometimes you'll see that H right before the parentheses. And we've learned this year, when we see something right next to a set of parentheses, that means we're going to be multiplying by that number. So your H can be here, or your H can be just at the end, times H. But the last thing we have to remember, we don't want two trapezoids. So we only want one of them, so we have to take that formula and divide it by 2. So that's where we get our formula for the area of a trapezoid. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. Okay? I did want to point out one thing on the worksheet that you have, because it gets a little tricky when you get to this one, number 6. So if you look at number 6, it's kind of interesting to see because we don't have anything up here. Well, here's the thing. They've kind of tilted it on its side. So if you turn it this way, now it becomes a little clearer. Oh, I have a base here, and then here is my height along the side. Okay, I hope that helps, and if you guys have any questions, always feel free to email me at davis@fremontschools.net. Also, I'll come back to you next week with a video on those irregular shapes, or composite figures they're called. So I'll help you out with that, but just to give you a clue to start you out, you're going to want to break those into shapes that you know. Kind of like we did for that trapezoid. You know how to find the area of rectangles. So if you can break them into different rectangles, do that, and then add up all the areas at the end. All right, I hope you all are doing well. I miss teaching you guys, and I hope you're all staying happy and healthy. Take care till next time.